Germs. Are you afraid of germs? Are you afraid of germs? People should be more afraid of germs. That's one of the big problems in our society, is that people aren't afraid enough of germs. But that's one of the big downfalls of American society, is the tolerance of germs. No, seriously though. Now seriously, the past 4 days, the previous 4 days have been ruined by the plague of 12. The plague of 2012. That's right. For pretty much the entire week, I have been saddled with flu-like symptoms, which were caused by germs. So the past 4 days have been ruined. So I pretty much spent the past 4 days in bed. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. I think the timing was just right for it. So, in other words, I didn't, we just had to tolerate it, had to put up with it. Because now what I could have done, if I thought it was going to make any difference, I have something called the hydrogen peroxide miracle cure for common colds. Now I don't know if it would work for the flu. It probably wouldn't even work for the flu, which is what this was. But for common colds, it is quite useful. As soon as the slightest symptom of a cold appears, you take a capful of hydrogen peroxide and pour it in each ear and let it cleanse it for about 8 minutes and then dump it back out again. But I didn't do it this time. The reason is that what if it had been effective, I probably wouldn't have known it would have been effective. I probably would have just thought that the symptoms were just my imagination, and I wouldn't actually know it was effective. And I would still be worried about getting sick over the next few weeks when I have lots of neat poo planned. So in other words, I just didn't use it. I didn't avail myself of this miracle cure. Though I think there was one time back in May I actually did use it once, and I think it worked. The symptoms started to appear. That very first symptom, of expanding glands, it just started to wink into existence once back in May. So, in went the peroxide. And then, nothing ever came of it. So, and not everybody understands the way germs are spread. Like, some kind of stuff you would hear about, like when you were like grade school age, like maybe like 6 or 7, you would hear like about germs because of books like Germs Make Me Sick, that book back in the 70s. Remember that book back in the 70s called Germs Make Me Sick? It was about the spread. It was a children's book. About the spread of germs. But I remember, now when you're like 6 or 7, people always teach you the proper way to sneeze. That you're not supposed to go up to somebody's face and go right in their face. You're supposed to cover your mouth and to turn your head. But at the time, I wasn't really worried about spreading germs. If I had to sneeze, I would sneeze. I didn't bother to turn my, because I was like 6 or 7, and so I didn't bother to turn my head or anything. And so my mom would get mad. My mom would say, my mom got mad, and she said, "Turn your head!" because she didn't want to pick up germs. So she would say, "Turn your head." So I went like this. So I had to sneeze. She meant when she said to turn your head, she meant like this. But instead I went like this. Like that. Turn your head. It's kind of like it's kind of like when a teacher says, "Grow up," you go like this. Or another one like that, another saying that adults have, like if they knew that you were seriously contemplating doing something mischievous, they would say, "Don't you even think about it." So I would go like this. I thought about it. Like that, like if you, that was one of my mom's favorite sayings. Don't you even think about it. Like if there was, like for instance, if I had to shovel, like for instance, if the dog pooped on the back porch, and I had the chore of shoveling it off, like, like, so like if I had the shovel full of dog dew and holding it over one of the house plants on the back porch, and my mom saw it, my mom would say, "Don't you even think about it." And then I would go, "I thought about it." That's how that would work. But the past 4 days have been rimming. They haven't been very productive. So that's 4 days I'll never see again. But at least it happened now, because what used to happen, like when I was in school, like probably it seemed like every weekend. This is like when I was like younger, like in school. It seems like every single weekend I would get sick. I know there was a couple times I got sick 2 weekends in a row. And weird thing is, it would only happen on the weekends. How suspicious is that? So I didn't get to miss school for it. So that made me so mad. Every weekend, it's like at least 2 weekends in a row that happened. And I remember when I got to high school, like every time I had a 3-day weekend, I would get sick over it. And there was the one time there's also the one time I had salmonella, and I was like sick for, like over President's Day weekend. Remember that? But that was so that's the story of the plague of 12.